I think we've survived the worst of the polar, whatever they're calling this one, but all I can say, it was cold. You can't hear me? Okay. I'm not going to repeat myself. Good morning, committee. Bring the meeting to order. I was just making some comments that didn't mean anything to anybody. So anyway, okay, first item of business is bill introductions. Do we have any bill introductions? Representative Fairchild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm introducing 24 RS 2328, and this bill would allow individuals who survived an attempted abortion and obtained injuries from the abortion to sue the doctor who attempted to abort them once they turn 18 years old. And then in addition to that, the bill would also allow the parents or the legal guardians of the child who survived an attempted abortion to sue the doctor who attempted to abort them at any time after the attempted abortion.
Very good. Thank you for that. Committee objections? Seeing none, bill is introduced. Any further bill introductions? Okay, very good. Just a reminder, and committee, I will tell you, I forgot my computer today too, but we are going to try to do as much as we possibly can paperless. And so Connie sends out the agenda. You know, in the old days, we printed everybody a copy and all that kind of stuff, but we're going to try to do that. So, and I need to remind myself too, because I forgot my computer and I don't have my computer with me, but we will do the testimony and all that kind of stuff will be on your computer. So there won't be any paper copies available. So let's just try to remember that on the S drive. Okay. All right. With that, we have Debbie Beavers with the ABC. Debbie, thank you for being here on this frigid morning. We appreciate you coming in and giving us an update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wish I could say it was a pleasure to take that chilly dash across the street, but I managed to make it. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. And my name is Debbie Beavers. I am the Director of Alcoholic Beverage Control. I have prepared a kind of a comprehensive briefing on our division and the things that we are doing at ABC. Just as a reminder, it is the mission of the ABC division to promote, serve, and protect the health, safety, and welfare of Kansans by regulating the liquor industry, enforcing liquor laws, and other laws that are administered by the Kansas Department of Revenue. We have set ourselves some priorities in addition to those in our mission. We want to provide customer service. We are accessible. We respond to calls and emails, answer inquiries and questions timely, and provide accurate information and guidance while avoiding giving direct legal advice. We also focus on education. We want to help our licensees be compliant with the liquor laws. Some of the ways that we do that is all new in-state licenses are hand delivered by the local agent. And at that time, they know their agent, they get to meet them, they get an educational visit. There are a few times, though, whenever that is not possible because of scheduling, and then we go ahead and email the license out, and the agent will do that an educational visit within 14 days of that license being issued. This really helps licensees to get off on a good start. Years ago, licenses were just mailed out, and agents had 3 months to get there, and you can get sideways in a business pretty quick. So we think that's been very helpful. Agents also do educational visits for stakeholders and licensees on request. And then we focus on the changing the behavior of repeat offenders. So one of the ways that we do that is we do the underage checks. And if the licensee fails the check and sells to an underage individual, then within 90 days, we go back and do a second check with the goal of reducing the rate of recidivism. We also want to maintain a level playing field. We do annual inspections for all licensees. We do dutifully investigate 100% of all complaints that we receive. And then we conduct stakeholder meetings to get industry's input prior to any policy changes. We also want to be efficient and provide excellent online services. We have required applications to be filed online. This past calendar year, 94% of those applications were filed online. We're shepherding along a few remaining folks, but it's been very helpful, especially times when we've been forced to telework and paper. You have to have somebody standing at a copier scanning documents out. We do maintain our website. It's updated regularly. We have, hopefully it's easy to navigate. That's our goal. We do have links to handbooks, statutes, and regulations on our website. And then we've renewed our efforts on our Facebook page. We've been posting regularly, and the goal is to continue that consistent posts that are relevant for the licensees and the stakeholders in the liquor industry. The next section in the briefing, if you're following along, is just the changes from last year, House Bill 2059. That was implemented successfully. The next thing I want to talk about is shipments of alcoholic liquor to Kansas residents. In calendar year 23, with the exception of December's data because it was due yesterday, and so we don't have all those reports in yet, we had 140,580 shipments of known alcoholic liquor to Kansas residents. So the only alcohol that you can ship legally to a Kansas resident is from a holder of a special order shipping license, and that is wine only, whether it's in-state or out-of-state. And they have to be a wine manufacturer in order to obtain that license. But unlawful shipments are a common problem. It's a known problem. It's not just Kansas. It's all states are struggling with this. And it does cause public health and safety concerns because the shipper may be an unlicensed entity. They may not have a license in the state they're located in. They may not have a federal license with the TTB. And if they're not legally shipping products into Kansas, they certainly don't market alcoholic liquor, adult signature required. And that's why when I talk about known shipments, those are shipments that are marked and are tracked and are reported by our common carriers. The online ordering makes underage access easy. We've done some operations in the past. We're just wrapping up another one. And you can order online, and if the common carrier just elects not to check an ID, they're going to just hand it off, maybe to a minor, and that has happened in our past operations. And if it's not marked, they certainly don't know. It's not their fault. But it makes it easy access. And then public health and safety. If they're unlicensed, it definitely it increases the risk for tainted or fake alcohol. You know, the old saying, when it's too good to be true, it probably is. And there's some very popular, very expensive alcohols. And sometimes the unlawful shipper may get that container and fill it with different alcohol, whether it's something that was actually manufactured or something they made, and then resell it. They'll seal it and resell it. So it does cause a public health and safety issue. I'm sure you've heard in foreign countries where people die because of alcohol that was made and it wasn't right. They don't have regulated systems like we do. So we don't really have that problem much in this country. And that's a good thing. So in addition to those concerns, we're concerned about there's definitely a significant loss of revenue in the loss of liquor enforcement tax and gallonage tax by all this unlawful alcohol coming into the state. We do currently have one associate that part of their duties is to take these reports. We have the common carriers, we have the special order shippers, and then we also have fulfillment houses. And we run match reports, and even though it's all electronic, it is very time consuming. We're doing a minor reorg right now, so we'll have another person doing that too. But frankly, we can have several people doing that all day long to get caught up and to stay on top of it, but we just don't have that type of staff. Our chief enforcement officer is also on the National Liquor Law Enforcement Association direct-to-consumer work group. That group is focused on these illegal shipments, both in the United States and internationally, and the shipping practices and the potential results. And so they're working on things like that so that we can hopefully, as all states, begin to tackle this issue together. Next up, I have an organizational chart for you. We have 41 positions when we're fully staffed. We did have 42 positions when one of our persons who worked on IT left. I gave that position to KDOR IT so they would have someone that would support our system. So we have 41 positions. We have 4 subdivisions in ABC. We have administration, licensing, enforcement, and legal. The administration unit, we have an operations manager. She oversees the administrative folks and the legal folks, and she manages multiple grants. Some of them are underage enforcement, and she does our budget as well. Those administrative folks are the ones that do the shipment audits. In our licensing unit, we have 10 licensing reps, and they have a licensing manager. They do complete count management. They issue all liquor licenses, permits, register each and every label of alcohol before it comes into the state, and they collect the gallonage tax. In 2023, 94% of those applications were submitted to us online. And then I've got some graphs coming up here that kind of show you some snapshots of where we're at with licensing. The first one is total licenses and permits, and we do a 4-year snapshot, and you might ask why, because when we get to another page, we can't do 5. We don't have enough space, that the print would be too tiny. So in the past 4 years, we're increasing in the total number of permits and licenses every year. Then the next one is a breakdown of the liquor licenses and permits. You can see permits have dramatically increased. Other includes our first and second tier licenses, which are the manufacturers and distributors. And then retail liquor stores, we've had a slight increase since 2021. We have 735 liquor stores. And then our on-premise licenses are up as well. And the liquor stores and on-premise are the third tier licenses. Like I mentioned a minute ago, each and every alcoholic liquor label has to be registered with us before it comes into the state. In 2020, January of 2024, we had 61,161 active labels registered. So those continue to go up every year as well. Cereal malt beverage, those licenses are issued by the local city or county, and they allow them to sell CMB and beer not more than 6%. These graphs are kind of related to the changes in 2017 that went into effect on April 1st of 2019. And we have a comparison of off-premise CMB retailers, which are your convenience grocery stores, things like that, and retail liquor stores. So we had 2,047 CMB retailers and 735 retail liquor stores at the beginning of the year. And you can see those numbers for the past 4 years. The on-premise CMB compared to our on-premise, we had 942 CMB and 2,801 on-premise liquor licenses. Moving along to taxes and fees collected, gallonage tax is due payable by where it's manufactured in the state or where it first comes to rest in the state. So farm wineries, microbreweries, microdistilleries, manufacturers, and distributors all pay gallonage tax, and also special order shippers pay that as well. The tax rate is $2.50 a gallon for spirits. Beer and CMB are 18 cents, fortified wine is 75 cents, and light wine is 30 cents, and that's all per gallon. The revenues, you can see how we've collected. The revenues are going up each year. Just want to point out that beer and CMB, you can see where the changes are just like anticipated. CMB taxes have gone down. beer taxes have gone up. And then this year, we broke out the wine, light wine and fortified wine due to the change in the tax percentage. And as anticipated, the fortified wine tax went down a little bit. And then the Division of Taxation, Miscellaneous Tax Division, collects the liquor enforcement and liquor drink taxes, and they're listed there as well. Our enforcement unit provides all of our investigative services necessary so we can effectively enforce the laws and ensure that qualified applicants are licensed. We have 18 positions, 3 of those are vacant, and we have 3 enforcement supervisors, and they have a chief enforcement officer that commands them. Their focuses are to educate and train. They educate licensees, owners, managers on liquor law compliance. They also do educationals with local law enforcement, regional prevention centers, and other coalitions. They also investigate liquor license applicant qualifications when flags arise during the application process. Those are sent out to an agent to investigate to make sure that the applicant is fully qualified to hold a license. They do potential hidden ownership investigations. And of course, the underage enforcement activities where they do the random controlled buys to do the underage sales checks. And then complaints, 100% of all of our complaints are investigated. And in calendar year 23, we had 244 complaints that were received by ABC. So they also enforce the liquor laws. They do the routine inspections. They do joint operations with other law enforcement agencies, and they focus on issues related to public health and safety, underage laws, overservice, source investigations, those type of things. Some of the things you may be familiar with in Topeka, there's Safe Streets operation where we partner with Topeka Police Department. We also have Fake ID Task Force, and we do those investigations as well. And then we also do the tax on the illegal drugs on behalf of the Director of Taxation. So when an agent does an investigation and they believe that there's an alleged administrative violation, they prepare that case and it's submitted to our Assistant Attorney General for potential action against their license. They also present alleged criminal violations to the county or district attorney for possible criminal prosecution against the individual suspect. In fiscal year 23, we had 491 liquor investigations. We did 444 new license deliveries and educational visits, and then we did 3,373 inspections. Our compliance rates for liquor licenses in fiscal year 23, liquor licensees were 81% compliant. When we went back and did that follow-up check, they were found to be 95% compliant. So that's what we're looking for, the improved compliance rate. So when the liquor laws changed in 2019, so that C&B retailers could sell the beer 6% or less, it also gave ABC oversight over their sales of beer. So we also do the same thing for the C&B retailers. We do investigate complaints. We did 36 complaint investigations. We did 333 random control buys and 99 chosen control buys on underage compliance checks in fiscal year 23. Of those random control buys, 87% were compliant. When we went back and did that follow-up check, they were 96% compliant. So again, that's what we're looking for to improve the compliance rates. In our legal unit, we have a legal assistant and a program consultant. They prepare the cases, both liquor and cereal malt beverage, for the AAG. They process the orders, collect the fine payments, schedule hearings, etc. In fiscal year 23, we did 235 administrative violation orders and 262 tax violation orders. In fiscal year 23, we collected $124,750.99 in administrative fines and $93,679.82 in tax fines. We issued 55 CMB citations in fiscal year 23 and collected $25,700 in fines. I mentioned drug tax enforcement earlier. The ABC agents are the ones who enforce the tax on illegal drugs when when they don't have the tax stamp on them. They issue the tax assessments, they execute the warrants, secure property from the drug tax violator to satisfy the tax debt. A minimum of $1,000 was established by the Department of Taxation, and they are responsible for collecting the tax debts on that. And in fiscal year 23, we did 134 of those tax assessments. ABC is focused on providing first-rate customer service and providing and maintaining a level playing field. And to try to measure our effectiveness in these, we do surveys. They are anonymous responses. We do 2 different surveys quarterly. Each and every new license or permit holder that applies gets a survey, and it's focused on the licensing experience and if they're in state, the hand delivery of the license. And then we take a random selection of 25% of existing licenses each year, and we send quarterly surveys out. And we're focused on customer service, division services, regulation of the industry. And in calendar year 23, the overall response from both of those surveys was 95% positive. So we're pretty proud of that. And then on the next graph, you can see where it's kind of broken down over the last 4 years and some of the major questions on there. Finally, I'd like to talk to you about a system upgrade. We are currently in the process of upgrading our software system that we use for everything ABC. It's called Posse ABC, and it is going to be on the newest platform. It's also going to have enhancements. Most of those enhancements are going to be for the applicants and the public users. We're going to have more fields for them, less forms for them to have to fill out and then upload. As a result of this enhancement, 16 paper forms are going to go away. So we're pretty pleased about that. This will simplify the process, make it much more user-friendly, and we're looking to roll that out at the end of June. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you for that. Committee questions. Representative Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as you mentioned, we put in effect a new law this past year where basically with the proper signage, you could be on the street, serving alcohol. Did you get any feedback from that? Were there any issues? Were there any problems with that?
None that I'm aware of.
Thank you. And the other thing I was wondering about, you said you had 3 openings in your enforcement. Is it hard finding people? How often do you have openings, or is this unusual, or what's the situation there?
It is difficult to find law enforcement officers. One of these positions, I believe, has been open a year, and we've done interviews, and currently we have 3 people in the process. Hopefully they'll make it to the other side. But that's the issue, doing our due diligence with the law enforcement. But it is difficult. I mean, the pool is smaller and we're all fishing from the same pond.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Committee, further questions? Oh, and committee, I'm going to get this together one of these days. So Lance, could you tell us who's on WebEx? I apologize for that. I know there are several people on WebEx because of the weather. And maybe I could get Connie to put that in like 2-inch print right here on.
Yes, sir. There is Adam Smith, Connie Banher. I apologize if I'm pronouncing these incorrect. Jordan Milholland, Kyle Hamilton, Kyle McNorton, Stephanie Clayton, and Trevor Jacobs.
Very good. Thank you for that. So are there any questions from the folks on WebEx? Seeing none. Committee, further questions? I have a few. So Deb, could you remind me how the three-tier system works? This is only my second year in this committee and I'm a little green on that. Could you remind us how that works?
Certainly. The three-tier system was established after Prohibition, and basically it separates the manufacturers of alcohol from the retail tier. So you have manufacturers in Kansas, yet we actually have manufacturers, farm wineries, microbreweries, microdistilleries, and they all make alcohol. Farm wineries do have an exception to sell directly to the licensees. The other licenses don't have that exception. But then they sell their product to a distributor who then sells the products to the retail tier system. This helps. Before Prohibition, we had what was called tied houses, where a manufacturer says, "You're only going to sell my beer. I own you. You're only going to sell my beer." So we don't have that because we have the separation with the distributor in between. And it also gives us an opportunity to have good system for checks and balances for tax collections as well.
Very good. So, and a follow-up with that, what happens if a distributor violates those provisions?
If a distributor would violate that provision, then we would do an administrative citation and they would go through the legal process.
And just to follow up on that, how long would that investigation take?
Investigations it depends on the nature of the investigation. Some investigations are very quick, some may take months.
Okay. Representative Kessler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Director, for being here today. Speaking on that lines here, just kind of, so part of our three-tier system, it actually prohibits a owner, manufacturer from also being a distributor, correct?
Yes.
I noticed in your data, I know you'd like to talk about specific companies, but I noticed in your database that there was a owner manufacturer that was granted a distributor's license. I was going to say, is that, is there anything you can say about that?
I can say that under current law, they qualified for the license.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Under current law, they qualified for the license, so it was issued.
Under current Kansas statute, they're okay doing that. You can have a fiduciary interest in a product and still own a distributorship in that product.
I can't comment on specific information. I can tell you that with the information that was submitted to us, they qualified for the license after a background investigation.
Thank you very much. I just actually saw that last night, so it's just one of those things like, oh, look at there. But thank you for that.
Representative Epley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Enjoyed the presentation. I just am aware of a lot of malware attacks, both privately and also government. Do you have any ability to comment about the protections you have in place for malware attacks in your particular agency? Are you subject to the same level as the state, or do you have anything unique or different in ABC?
Yes, we're subject to the same level as the state, and our system is hosted by the vendor in the cloud, backed up, and very secure.
Committee, further questions? Representative Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here today. My question is, do you guys, just out of curiosity, track DUIs? And as we pass different laws and change things, just looking for trends that you can bring back to us. So maybe when we do things, we can think about it and look at the data and say, okay, maybe we need to fix this or whatever. I'm just curious if you guys track that.
ABC does not track DUIs.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Committee, further questions?
That's right.
Representative Kessler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director, do you feel that you currently have all the tools that you need to minimize the impacts of illegal operators?
That's a tricky question to answer.
Well, just do you think we should be looking into some of that, or do you want to have another conversation about that? Or surely you've discovered a lot of aspects about our laws and your job and the aspects of Kansas over some of the recent activity throughout the state. So has there been some communication or talk within the agency that there might be some additional tools in order for you to effectively enforce our laws?
Yes, we have had some internal discussions about that, and until some investigations are completed, I can't give you a better answer. There's one in particular that we've talked about, but until some of these investigations are closed, I won't know, but I'd love to have a conversation later about that.
Committee, further questions? Representative Kessler.
I'm sorry about this. When you were talking about you investigate all your complaints that you get, 100% of the complaints that you get brought into the ABC, that you investigate those. I mean, just generalized, do you really find that those complaints actually have merit or not in general?
Many of them have merit. Some don't. Some are unfounded, but we do investigate all of them. So, and we do issue some citations as a result of what the investigation outcome is.
Committee, further questions? Representative Saunders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So when you do these controlled buys to try to make sure that I would guess mainly retail stores are complying, and when you go back, you have a pretty good rate of people improving. But if you have a chronic offender, is there any kind of a death penalty sort of thing where you can, like, 3 strikes and you're out, or anything like that? I mean, do people lose their licenses?
Yes, we do have a penalty grid, and there's penalties for first, second, third, fourth plus offenses, and revocation is a penalty as well. So they could potentially lose their license.
And does that happen very often?
It does happen. I mean, we have several revocations a year.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So along those lines, if you had a distributor that was operating outside the 3-tier system, what would you do?
Well, depending on the outcome of the investigation, we would do the administrative citation. Based on the severity of it, we have a penalty grid. You don't have to do the first offense, but revocation is always an option at each level of the penalty grid. So it would just depend. I can't really give you a solid answer on a hypothetical.
Well, I could be more definitive, but I won't. How's that? Also, could you give the committee a little bit of an idea about the federal wholesaler's permit and how that works?
Sure. If they're a wholesaler, they have to apply with the TTB and get a basic permit. The TTB does all of that information, and I know some, but I don't know a lot about that. So, but we do require anyone who is applying for a license to be a registered alcohol dealer. That is a federal requirement, so we require that. And if they're going to be a manufacturer or wholesaler, we also get a copy of their basic permit or their brewer's notice.
But doesn't that allow restaurants and such to buy from a wholesaler or a retail liquor store?
Their federal permit?
Yes.
No, their federal permit is for the federal government. And in our Kansas laws, a drinking establishment has to buy from a retail liquor store who's also a wholesaler under federal law. So once they get that wholesaler basic permit, then they can, and have their sign posted, they can then sell to the drinking establishments and on-premise licensees.
That's what I thought. Okay. Committee, further questions? Representative Kessler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Guys, feel free to jump in anytime, guys. You were mentioned earlier that you sit on national conferences and stuff like that. Other than we talked about shipping a little bit, but is there any other issues or problems that other states are seeing that you've had communication with other directors?
There are issues, but the overarching one seems to be the shipping that's affecting all states. That's the one that seems to be affecting all of us the most. And how do we deal with it?
Committee, further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for being here. We look forward to hearing the outcome of the investigation in a timely manner, I would hope. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Committee, any other items to come before the committee? Okay, tomorrow we will have an update from the lottery. And at this time, we have no meeting scheduled for Thursday. So unless something happens in the next couple of days, we will not be meeting Thursday. So with that, thank you very much, and we're adjourned.